This car repair shop is just 50 meters away from the front line. Its walls were damaged by shrapnel. For Alexander, closing the shop is not an option. He would be losing his source of livelihood. After each attack, he is forced to make repairs to his shop.
There isn't a single place where a grenade or a shell hasn't left its mark. There were times when the roof was torn off completely. The windows were shattered. The walls were broken.
Combat engineers have found unexploded shells in the residential town of Счастье. After examining this yard, sappers found a mortar shell. It was immediately destroyed.
An 82mm shell, which is banned under the Minsk agreements. It's not surprising, since this area is shelled all the time.
Such discoveries aren't rare. Combat engineers have to be extremely careful when examining the shells.
They can be found up to 1 meter deep underground. We often find fragments which are left after shells and mines explode. Sometimes we discover unexploded ammunition.
Dmytro is a serviceman of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Up until this January, state institutions and international missions were the only ones who could carry out mine clearance. Now, an amendment to a law allows engineers from private companies to do it. Roman is preparing for a trip to Donbas. He has already worked as part of peacekeeping missions in many countries, including Lebanon.
In Ukraine, we can find ammunition which was made in Soviet times. When we worked on minefields in Lebanon, which were set up by the Israeli army 10-15 years ago, there were also expired mines there. But ours are newer. A mine which was set up 15 years ago can fall apart. The fuse can rust. But it still poses a threat, but not as much as here.
Ukraine's Ministry of Temporarily Occupied Territories will be responsible for the work of private sappers. It will issue licenses and monitor their performance.
One of the roles which has the biggest risk of corruption is the process of issuing certificates and licenses to the operators who will carry out the job. We will develop a transparent mechanism with clearly defined criteria. We will do everything to minimize the risk of corruption in this process.
According to the new legislation, combat engineers have to be insured and guarantee that the land is fully cleared of mines. This year, $260,000 were allocated from Ukraine's state budget for mine clearance.
Sometimes after the mining, they drive through the field in a tractor. It's not safe, but they don't understand that it's dangerous.
Since 2014, 269 civilians have been killed by mines in Ukraine. 27 of them were children. More than 1,000 were wounded as a result of mine explosions. According to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, up to 80,000 square kilometers of land along the front line in Donbas have to be demined.
We still haven't examined all of the territory, so it's too early to talk about the final cost of demining. For now, we can only guess if it's $500 or $800 million.
Over the past 4 years, combat engineers have examined and cleared more than 30,000 hectares and destroyed over 400,000 mines and unexploded shells. Reported by Yulia Boshko, UATV.